So you're sick of your 9 to 5 and you want to get involved in horse racing? Today we cover off all the different angles, all the different opportunities, and all the different roles in horse racing. You can see how your skill set can be applied to the thoroughbred racing industry. Hello, hello, hello. It's not where we start, ladies and gentlemen. It's where we finish. I'm Anthony Gafa, and you're watching Unfiltered with Gafa. Another question I'm asked quite regularly within the horse racing space, within the horse racing industry is, how do I get involved? How do I get a job within the industry? And what jobs are available within our industry? So today I thought I'd cover off all those type of positions that are actually available, from mucking out boxes and working on a farm all the way up to being a chief steward or a bloodstock agent and everything in between. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the pay structure, qualifications required, can you work remotely, those type of things where I'm asked all the time. So if I'm asked, it must be on people's minds on how to get into our amazing industry. So the first question I'm always asked is, how do I get involved? How do I get started? What type of job should I be looking for to get into the industry to make a start? I'd say it's one of the most rewarding jobs within the industry is being a stable hand, doing yearling preps, seeing the horses come from point A to point B. So the yearling prep side, being a farm hand, get to work outdoors all day. So the entry-level type jobs do involve, I guess, a lot of manual type labour and the hands-on approach. To jump on a lawnmower, use a whippersnipper, it doesn't need a lot of experience. So the qualifications aren't exactly at a high level. The more you put your hand up on a farm, the more you're going to learn. So I think it's more of a hands-on approach for these type of roles is a fair way to say it. Even with the handling of horses, you might start by handling the weaners or the young horses and then move on to the horses that are harder to handle, like a colt, for example. So there is progression in all of the individual entry-level jobs. The pay structure, it is the entry level, but you do need to start somewhere, so you need to keep that in mind. One thing I'd like to cover in all the topics is, can I work remotely or hybrid? Unfortunately, in this role, there is no hybrid, there is no working from home, so you will be required to get out there and get the job done. It's a very hands-on type role. When it comes to pros and cons, I think the best part about it is you get to work outdoors and you get to work with horses every day of the week. Definitely one of the pros. One of the negatives is the money's not great, but you do have to start somewhere. If you're working within a horse racing stable, you may have to be there at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning. So it's starting early in the morning and you've still got to run feeds out of an evening. So you could be asked to do split shifts. They can be quite taxing. So there are split shifts, early starts, Saturdays, Sundays. The horses don't know what day it is of the week. They don't know if it's a public holiday. They still need to work. They still need to be fed. So 7 days a week can be quite demanding, but that's part of the industry. Well, I think it can lend itself to most people. There are people who have been executives for a long period of time and they just want to mix it up. They want to change. And then there's people who are school leavers and they don't know what to do and they want to be involved in the thoroughbred industry. But where do they start? Well, this is perfect for you. The next position we're going to talk about is, where do I go if I want to progress from working on the farm, from the physical side of things? Sometimes after 5, 10 years, people are looking to advance their career or do something a little bit different. How do I get involved in an office type position? Well, and what positions are available? When we talk about being involved in an office environment or getting away from the tools, so to speak, you can get involved in admin. Most farms, stables or racing authorities have got admin roles. And with that comes marketing departments, finance departments, and we've got finance companies that finance horses, along with insurance companies that insure horses. So moving away from the hands-on approach there is definitely opportunities out there. When we're recruiting, we do find there are a lot of people knocking on the door looking for that next career progression step, because sometimes you can't be a track work rider in your later years. Sometimes you can't handle horses because you may have been injured. So this does allow people to shift sideways or career progression, whichever way you want to look at it. When it comes to qualifications for these type of jobs, to be fair, you still need to learn a lot on the job. Horse racing is a niche industry. So there's not schooling around certain tasks that you need to learn. There is some education around it, but within this industry, one of the advantages is coming in with an open mind and the will and the want to learn. There will be doors that will open for you because it's all about the right attitude, not the academic at this level. Starting out within these jobs, don't expect to earn a lot of money, but they can be quite fruitful. It is a niche industry. If you become an expert in the marketing, for example, well, you're going to be highly sought after. If you're working for a finance broker who finances horses, or very similar, an insurance broker who insure horses, you can be put on a commission structure. So there is definitely money to be made within this space. Given they are rural type jobs a lot of the time, the insurance space, the finance space, horses are sold and bought, traded all over the world. So remote is definitely one of the advantages, and it is definitely an option. The cons are you do need to start somewhere. The pay structure is not going to be exactly lucrative, but you will get there eventually. It suits somebody with an open mind, someone who's willing to learn, be part of a team, because a lot of these farms, racing stables, they run a tight ship. So you may be the marketing department. You may be the finance department. You may be the only admin person there. So you are relied upon. If an owner needs to be contacted on a Sunday, that's just what you need to do. So when it comes to hours, just keep an open mind. It can be quite demanding. So now we're going to cover my favorite position within the whole industry, and that's being a licensed auctioneer. To become a licensed auctioneer, you need to be a stock and station agent, class 1 or class 2. You need to have a certificate for in real estate. They do cross over. And you need to be an accredited auctioneer. So if you tick all those boxes, there's definitely good opportunities within this space. Is there much career progression in being an auctioneer? To be fair, in the physical auctions, when you attend the auction ring, it all comes down to how much experience you've got and how you can capture an audience. So the progression will be determined by the quality of the auctioneer. If you're good at what you do, the money will follow. Is there an opportunity to work remotely, hybrid? Well, this day and age there is. 10 years ago, the answer was no. You needed to attend the auction ring. You needed to be present to call the auction, especially within the horse racing industry. But now, given auctions are online, whether it's thoroughbreds or cattle, there is definitely opportunities to work as a hybrid auctioneer. The pros are it's exhilarating, it's exciting, You're working within a space where no two lots are the same. One of the cons, or a few of the cons, would be given no two lots are the same, there's extensive research. You need to understand what you're taking to market. You need to do research in each individual lot to make sure you're capitalizing on the vendor's result. So doing the research, getting your head around the market, it's not just turning up and yelling out to the audience. There is work in the background. It suits somebody who can capture an audience. It suits somebody who understands the vendor's expectation and wants to exceed it in every lot. Because selling horses, we're relying on that final result, and that's left in the hands of an auctioneer. So you need to turn up, you need to have a smile on your face, and you need to be excited for every individual lot. If that's in your nature, this is a position for you. So next we're going to cover off the wild ones, the crazy ones within our industry, and that's the jockey. How do you become a jockey? Well, you need to conduct a 4-year apprenticeship. That's under the guidance of a trainer. Once you've completed your apprenticeship, you can then apply to the PRA, the Principal Racing Authority of your state, to get your license. As far as progression goes, there's a lot of room for growth and opportunities in being a jockey. An elite jockey who will be riding on Saturdays or in group races is where you want to be. But you must start in the barrier trials. You must get a certain amount of barrier trials under your belt. Then as an apprentice, you've got a claim. You may outride your claim. But eventually, you're going to become more recognised as a jockey. You make yourself available. You might be a country jockey. You might be a city class jockey. But at the end of the day, as far as progression goes, it all comes down to the amount of work you want to put in, how you want to better yourself as a jockey. The pay structure really is quite simple for a jockey. If you're a freelance jockey, you get paid for trials and for the amount of work you do. If you're an apprentice, you get paid a salary. But the advantage of being a jockey is you will claim 5% of the purse for whenever a horse wins a race. So as an apprentice or a fully fledged jockey, if you win a race that's paying $1 million, well, it's an easy $50,000 you've just made. So the money can be quite lucrative for the good jockeys or for the jockeys that want to put in the extra work. But the cons, well, it's very, very dangerous. If you're not an elite jockey, you can struggle to make ends meet. What type of person do I need to be a jockey? Well, first, you need to be between 45 and 53 kilos or thereabouts. So if you're big, forget it. If you're fat, forget it. It's not going to work for you. But when it comes to being a jockey, you need to be willing to put in the hours. You need to be disciplined, not just around the horse or around people. Your diet, your training, the traveling, it all comes down to discipline. So I think the key ingredient to being a good jockey, discipline and being one with the horse. Well, the next one, we probably wouldn't have much of an industry if we didn't have them. It's the owner and the breeder. Now, as an owner and a breeder, they're very different, but they do come under the same umbrella. Now, an owner is an investor in the industry typically. They'll buy a horse, they'll buy a share in a horse, they'll buy breeding stock. But a breeder is someone who can be a little bit more strategic. They need to understand what they're trying to achieve, what's their end goal, and are they doing it for a financial gain? Are they doing it because they want results on the track? Now, when it comes to breeding, there are people who breed on type. There are people that breed on pedigrees. There are people that breed on track records. You don't need to be an expert when it comes to being a breeder or an owner because there are industry experts that can advise you, and we will cover that off later on. Now, the progression in this space it does revolve around success, really. Typically, people that jump into the industry and they have a bit of success, well, they say success breeds success. You know, you might start with 2 or 3 mares or 2 or 3 yearlings. Next thing you know, you've won some races, you've had a bit of fun along the way, you've had some success, and the progression is, well, you just get a little bit deeper. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. That's for an owner and a breeder. The pay structure can follow if you win races, if you're a breeder and you sell at sales, whether it be yearlings, breeding stock, or whatever that is. The pay structure can revolve around results that you have in a sales ring or results that you have on the track and secure some prize money. So the pay structure is variant on the angle you're coming in at. Is it remote or is it an on-site type role being a breeder and an owner? Well, I think it's a bit of a hybrid because you want to be there when the horse is having a bit of success or if it's going through the ring. But for the most part, you're not going to be there living in the boxes with the horse. So probably fair to say it's a bit of a hybrid type role. It can be really rewarding with not just financial, but having a good time, networking. investing into a horse and seeing it come out and be a success on the track, or even more rewarding for me would be breeding my own stock, breeding a mare, getting her in foal, foaling down, rearing a yearling, getting it broken in, racing as a 2-year-old, winning a race. That's the rewarding part. So that's definitely one of the pros. It can be a money pit, I'm not going to lie. It can be quite financially exhausting, racing, owning horses, or even breeding horses. Who does this suit? Well, when we're talking about the owner side, it's an investor. It really suits the investing type mindset, or somebody who is passionate about horse racing. Because if you're an industry participant and you go to the races and you have a punt and you're into the industry and you really want to get involved, well, becoming an owner it's quite easy. There are opportunities in micro shares, buying yearlings, race horses. So becoming an owner is not that difficult if you're in the right corner. But when it comes to breeding, it can be a little bit more strategic. You need to make sure you've got the right advice because it can be a money pit. So it suits somebody who wants to learn about the industry and make sure you're not throwing all your money down the drain. Next, we're going to cover off becoming a vet. Is this the most important role in our industry? I say yes, because animal welfare is paramount. Understanding if a horse is happy, healthy, sound is so important, which is why becoming a vet is very difficult. You would need to do a Bachelor of Veterinarian Science. To get into that, you need an ATAR of 98. The degree itself takes 5 to 6 years. And you also need to carry out work placement, whether it's through farms, veterinarian practices. So that's a part of the prerequisite to becoming a vet. You also rely on other industry experts such as a farrier, physio, chiro, dental, because these things can impact the well-being of a horse. So being able to collate information from other industry experts is very important within this space. So it's not a matter of just turning up and doing your job. You are relying on a wider network. As a vet, there is definitely progression. When you complete your degree, you're typically working under other vets. You will then have your own space, and there's opportunity to open your own practice. The pay structure for a vet really comes down to your experience. Initially, you're going to be on $85,000, around about that money, up to $150,000 if you're more experienced. And then if you become a specialist or a surgeon, these guys can earn up to about $300,000. Working with horses as a vet, it does not lend itself to remote work at all. You can diagnose things over the phone until you get there, but ultimately it is a very hands-on job. Now we're going to cover becoming a horse trainer. These guys are worth their weight in gold. I believe it's the toughest gig in our industry. Now, to become a trainer, you need to have a Cert 4. But to get a Cert 4, there are 2 ways to achieve this: the academic side or the experience side. On the academic side, you need to be able to have a Cert 3 as a track work rider or a Cert 3 as a stable hand. Or the other option you've got, you just need to display equivalent work experience. So the next part is completing your Cert 4. That is made up of 16 modules, which will enable you to get to that next phase to get a license. So ultimately, you would like to get a general trainer's license, which means you're unrestricted. You can have as many horses as you like in work. You can have as many owners, different owners. You don't have to train horses just for yourself. Whereas a restricted license means that you're just training horses for yourself or your family. And you're typically capped at about 5 horses. By having a restricted license, it is a good stepping stone to get to a general trainer's license, but it's not mandatory. So getting your general trainer's license can be done without a restricted, but it is highly recommended to get the restricted first. Becoming a horse trainer on paper is one thing, but you really need to ensure you're learning the craft. The best way to become a trainer is having an experienced campaigner take you under their wings. Sometimes horse trainers are generational, but there is definitely ways to learn to become an elite trainer, and that's by learning from the best. When it comes to horse racing, it can be quite lucrative for the elite, but then on the other side, it can be extremely tough. Some trainers who have only got a few horses in work, struggling to win because there's a lot of competition out there, do struggle, and it's hard to pay the bills. But then when you look at the elite trainers, the trainers take 10% of the purse and training fees. How much of horse racing can be done remotely? Zero. You must be on the job. You must be assessing your horses. You need to know. You need to be in the know. You need to know what's happening on a daily basis. You need to be on top of your horses because there's no room for error. Pros and cons. Again, I keep leaning on this one. We get to work with the horses. That's definitely a pro. And if you're a success-driven person, seeing your horse cross the line first, there's nothing better. The cons, the industry is very tough. There's no room for the weak. It will eat you up and spit you out. And again, horses do get injured. That can be heartbreaking. Who is this best suited to? Entrepreneurial type-minded people. People who are willing to put in the hours, because it takes a lot of hours. You need to understand there's 7 days in a week because horses eat 7 days of the week. They need to be attended to 7 days of the week. Big hours, big commitments, being able to say no, massive sacrifices. So if you're the type of person that wants success in horse racing and you're willing to put in the work, this could be the path for you. Now we're going to cover off the big boss, the steward. Some people love them, some people hate them. To become a steward, you become a cadet. The very first step is becoming a cadet. Whilst you're a cadet, you're getting paid and you do a Cert 3 through your racing authority. Once you've completed the Cert 3 and you're no longer a cadet, you're now a steward, you then can move on to becoming a senior steward. The pay structure for a steward, there's definitely no commissions available. These guys can't earn any external money whatsoever. But it can become quite lucrative. A steward will typically earn well over $150,000. But it is a very, very senior type role, so it's not for everybody. Can it be done remotely? Some of the tasks are conducted remotely, but for the most part, it is a hands-on approach job because you need to be present at the races. You need to be making decisions on race results. So there's a lot of hands-on, and you need to be familiar with the horse racing industry as a whole. You can have an impact on horse racing directly. Definitely one of the cons are a lot of people won't like you. So what type of person would you need to be a successful steward? You need to be a sucker for rules. You need to be straight as an arrow. You need to be dutiful. And you need to understand policies and procedures. So if you possess all of the above, this could be for you. So now we're going to cover the bloodstock agent. These guys are responsible for spending other people's money. So how to become one? What sort of qualifications? You can carry out a business diploma in equine. You can do the Flying Start, the Godolphin program. There are other ways to get ahead. But the best way here is to learning from a seasoned campaigner. Getting experience, understanding the animal, have a good eye for a horse. Being able to analyse a pedigree, get your head around race records. These type of things are really important and they come with experience. The more sales you attend, the more horses you inspect, you can become a better bloodstock agent. Progression as a bloodstock agent means that you're probably a better networker and you can move to a different buying bench. Progression as a bloodstock agent might mean that you've secured a few good quality lots for not a lot of money and they come out and be something special. That will get you recognition. So the amount of money you spend doesn't necessarily mean you're the best bloodstock agent. In my opinion, sometimes they're the worst because these guys are under a lot of pressure to deliver on the track. A bloodstock agent, when purchasing horses, will sometimes charge a minimum fee, or the range can be between 5 and 10% to purchase a horse. A lot of the time, they are working from home. They are required to attend sales or inspect horses on your behalf. That's why they're getting paid. But a lot of the research is done online. Therefore, it's a hybrid type role. They get the best of both worlds. They research at home, online. And then the other side is they get out and about and inspect the horses. So hybrid is probably the best way to explain a bloodstock agent. You're out and about, you're networking, you're inspecting horses, you're going to the races, you're going to farms. There is a lot of pros in being a bloodstock agent, and you can earn good money. The cons are, if you have a bad run, it's a very small industry. Everybody knows about it. What type of person is a bloodstock agent? I think first and foremost, the one word is you have to be very entrepreneurial. You need to be able to secure a client. You need to understand what they're after. You need to try and find yourself a little niche within the space. A bloodstock agent needs to be a business-minded type person with an appetite for horses. We can't always get it right, but results do speak for themselves, and that's what will make you a good bloodstock agent. So if you are looking at getting into the thoroughbred industry, whether it's the racing side or the breeding side, there are so many different opportunities to get involved. You need to understand the type of person you are. What is your makeup? In general, it's not a 9-to-5 type job. One thing that makes it easier, most people are working in the industry because they love the horse. They love doing what they do. If you're deciding whether to get into this industry, we've covered off a number of roles. The best advice I can offer is see what type of skill set you have. See what you can apply it to. Get yourself involved. Make a start. Get your head around the hours because it is demanding when it comes to hours. It's not light work, but it's definitely very rewarding. You get to work with the most amazing animal day in, day out. You network with professionals so you can meet people along the way. It's been an amazing journey for me. I'm sure it will be for you too.